engagement with global financial institutions, including the World Bank, IMF, and ADB. He currently chairs the Delhi Urban Art Commission's DUAC. Please put your hands together for Mr. Ajit Pai, Strategy-Led Partner, Government and Public Sector, EY, India. To moderate this session with him, we have a personality who is a seasoned journalist and editor, commodities and currencies at CNBC TV 18, bringing over a decade of expertise in covering both domestic and global commodity markets, including agriculture and non-agro sectors. She also hosts the weekly program Commodity Champions and appears across CNBC's Hindi and Gujarati channels. Please put your hands together for Ms. Manisha Gupta. Can we have a round of applause? Joining us as a set of panel, we have a personality who holds the position of Vice President at the Indian Rice Exporters Forum, IREF, where he engages in shaping export policy advocacy, market access for Indian rice, and coordination between exporters, government agencies, and trade bodies. Please welcome Mr. Dev Garg. Can we have a huge round of applause, everyone? Joining us on the stage, we have a personality who is a partner in the strategy and transaction practices, EY India, based in New Delhi. His work spans strategic advisory, mergers and acquisitions, and large-scale government and private sector transactions. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome Mr. Satyam Shivam Sundaram on the stage with a huge round of applause. So, last but not the least, everybody, please allow me to welcome one person who is a senior official with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, specializing in global food chains, agricultural policy, food security frameworks, and trade in food commodities. Please allow me to welcome on stage Mr. Sanjay Sethi with a huge round of applause. Now, handing over my mic to Mr. Ajit Pai and Ms. Manisha Gupta to moderate this one of a very thought-provoking session. So, ma'am.
Thank you very much for that. And well, yes, this is expected to be a freewheeling of a conversation. And that is because we're talking about a subject like that. Viksit Bharat is not just, as was said, is not just a buzzword. It is something that has been talked about. It is India's progression as it completes 100th anniversary in sense of independence there. And of course, a lot of pillars and conversations have been moving around that. But today, what we specifically will talk about with this panel is about rice as an industry. It has been a strong staple across global markets. It is the most eaten food, perhaps. And for the Indian markets, it's very, very important. With the kind of holding that we have in sense of production, especially now, and the kind of export numbers we have from here until 2047, where does the industry go in the Indian market sense, and of course in the exports as a place as well, is what we will discuss here. Mr. Pai, hi, your opening words.
So good evening, everyone, and delighted to be over here talking about something that I think is a proxy for the broader Indian economy. When we are looking at rice, most people think of it as something that is as ancient as civilization, and it is, because urbanization began with grain and the ability to store grain. And rice has been native in this country almost for 10,000 years, 8,500 documented, and people think as much as 10,000 years. So why is it so relevant today? Because in the past 2 days, we heard a lot of different panelists, talk about the various issues that are facing the rice export industry. And as I heard those issues, it was very sort of oriented towards most of the topics that we talk about when we look at the Viksit Bharat Abhiyan. When we look at logistics, we look at finance, we look at the primary production, gradually shifting to secondary and tertiary, to move into the manufacturing, the value addition, to begin to look at the trade, to basically look at the services. We looked at everything from each of the sectors that are discussed and relevant to getting to Viksit Bharat, and it appeared extremely relevant to rice. We are right now the world's #1 exporter of rice. We also had a lot of top people talking about how within rice, the margin capture is very limited right now, which is classic for a developing economy, which is early in its cycle. We have got to figure out how to do that. Also, the quality of the product, high variation in what that quality is right now and how to define it. And we're making tremendous progress over there. And then finally, on the value, about how do we actually get the categories, how do we improve that? And this conference, BRIC has been extremely educative into giving us visibility into all of those areas. As the first time that we had this conference, it's the first of its kind, we have actually been able to identify all these other areas that we can work on for expanding and improving the export environment, and also figuring out how rice can help in that path towards Viksit Bharat, exactly the way that we are doing it for the overall economy. And it's a very critical part of the economy. 43% of this country's workforce is still engaged in agriculture, and not all of them in rice, but rice is a very important element over there. Rice is still, they're very important in the food procurement process and the rice security process. And gradually, we have seen in the past year, rice has become very relevant for our exports as well. It is, in terms of value, right there in the top in terms of the kind of value that we can get. So with that in mind, after all that we have heard in the past, 2 days, being with a large, rice brand domestically, one of the large rice exporters, externally sending it overseas, also being involved in the shipping industry. I would like to ask our panelist that is right next to me, Mr. Dev Garg, that is also a vice president for IREF, in all three capacities, in the shipping industry, as a rice brand, as a bulk rice exporter, and of course, as an IREF office bearer. Could you give us some color as to the biggest priorities that should be there for this forum in terms of getting India towards Viksit Bharat? Which are the levers that are most relevant and most pressing right now when the world is faced with excess rice supplies in multiple geographies?
Hello, everyone. And it's been great 2 days. We've had so many perspectives, and the process to building all this over the past few months has been very interesting. Now, to answer the question, when I was running around, when we were trying to organize everything, we were talking to every department of Government of India. We were talking to various other state actors and non-state actors. As a shipping company, I interacted with the port authorities, I interacted with the ministry, and I interacted with the shipping lines. Every person had their own priorities. When I talked as a rice exporter, I interacted with the Ministry of Commerce, with the Finance Ministry, the MSME Ministry, and various others. And as the Vice President of the Federation, I interact with everyone. There is one thing which I feel is the most important thing for any sector to grow. That is policy, consistency, and a holistic approach to a particular sector. Currently, all the government departments, everybody is running in their own direction. When we talk about commerce, they have their own agenda. When we go to shipping, they have a completely different thought process. When we go to finance, they're talking about something else. But practically, if we see on ground, those different approaches don't benefit the sector. Maybe in isolation, those departments may be correct. Their perspectives are to protect their own propriety, but it doesn't benefit the sector. Every department is running in different directions. They have different thought processes. So the very first thing that is needed is there should be a particular task force, a particular agenda on how to approach a particular sector. Now, what goes wrong with this approach? Almost all government departments, when you talk to them about this broad-based strategy, they start talking about too generic. They have a very broad view of an industry. When they will talk about rice, they will talk about agri in general. Now, agriculture in itself is a very wide sector. Rice in itself has many facets to it. There cannot be just one strategy for rice. Rice will need various different approaches. You need a different approach for basmati rice. You need a different approach for non-basmati rice. Even under non-basmati rice, you need a different approach for bulk shipping. You need a different approach for container shipping. So you need to give the detailing and the respect what a sector deserves. So the very foremost point that the industry requires is that there should be micro detailing for any particular sector. This is how an industry can grow. And this is what I feel after interacting with all stakeholders is the most basic deficiency in our approach towards the sector. We are all generalists. We are not specialists. So that is where we fail. And that is where our competitors exceed us. So this is the very basic, that is why we came up with this idea to create a detailed roadmap for Viksit Bharat and the rice sector detailing. I went through various other documents. I went through documents, I would not put out any names, but I went through documents produced by other associations, by other organizations. Too generic. If I had to summarize those documents in 5 points, I could not take out 5 implementable points out of any document. So we don't go into details. We are scared of the details. We just want to do an easy work. So that easy approach is the basic enemy that we have.
So thank you, Devji, for those wonderful comments. What I gathered from that is that policy is the biggest requirement, and policy certainty, policy clarity, and then also very clear steps for how that policy would be implemented. Moving on to Sanjay Sethi ji, it was interesting to hear you yesterday on the panel. One of the interesting things you mentioned is that rice by itself is not the only thing that is grown in those fields. Right now, when we sit in Delhi in the month of October, usually the biggest topic in Delhi in the month of October is the pollution that Delhi faces at this time. We have made tremendous progress in the past 6 years. Average for pollution when you look at the particulate matter has come down for 2.5 from like 800 to 400, but it's still about 10 times what's permissible. So still a bad situation, but improving. But what you said, when we are looking at a Viksit Bharat, we are looking at a Bharat that is not polluted. We are looking at a Bharat that has a higher income, that we go up the value stream. We are looking at a Bharat that manages its water far more effectively. And we are looking at a Bharat that has metrics in its agricultural production and nutrition that is far more balanced than has been historically. So since the Green Revolution, we are focused on the 2 grains because it was roti, kapda or makan. Now, as we progress upwards, can you tell us for the rice industry, what are the various levers? I know that you made some very interesting comments yesterday about just making them grow the rice earlier. There are some very critical nudges that are there, but there are also some big moves that have to happen in the way the country thinks about its food security and its nutrition. And in rice in particular, there are lots of practices that many other speakers talked about. Taking away the bran, for instance, might polish the rice, but is taking away nutrition, things like that. So from your perspective, as we try and take rice towards Viksit Bharat, what are the most relevant parts of that ecosystem that tweaking it will make rice more relevant? The timing, the water, the nutrition, all those other aspects, what needs to happen?
So it's a very interesting question, and it forces us to think that how can rice be a part of the solution when in certain ways for some of the nutritionists, especially those who are diabetics, rice is a problem. It has a high glycemic index. It is full of carbs, very little proteins. It is taking away all the groundwater in Punjab, Haryana and some of those areas. And we are a protein deficient nation, and it is not solving that problem. A state like Punjab and Haryana, we don't have any forest. There is no bear tree. There is no amrood. There is no things which can improve the quality of soil. There is no protein which is grown in the form of pulses. So if you see, there are n number of problems which rice emanates. When I was walking up to the stage just some few minutes ago, somebody gave me this document, and it's a MSME, small enterprise, and they said that we are doing Kala Namak. I'm sure since people are here since yesterday, And I was reading what it says. This Orizo company is saying, Kala Namak has a glycemic index of 49%. So that means almost half of what a normal white rice is, whether it is basmati or it is non-basmati. It is also having a protein of, hold your breath, 11%, more than double the protein that is there. It's as good as all the millets, as good as wheat or other high proteinous grains. It is also saying that it is not harming the practices, it is not harming, it's very sustainable in growth, and it is being grown in UP since 600 before Christ, BC. So it's that old. So that means there are some rice varieties which are part of the solution. And if we look at that, then it opens up all the land races which are being lost. It is not just Kala Namak. They have mentioned about Adam Chini. They have mentioned about other crops that they are doing, other varieties that they're doing. If you go to Odisha, you have Kala Jira. You have so many other varieties. There is a Govind Bhog. There is Ambe More in Pune. There is Dubraj. There is Krishna Kamod. So you have so many varieties, and all these varieties are fetching a good price from the consumer point of view. So if you start from the consumer, then you suddenly find that there is a market for product which is low in chemicals. There are products which are very, very unique in taste. It is something like what happened in case of quinoa can happen with all these varieties. Now the problem is that all these things are not in a cluster, not in a very good cluster. Like basmati is a cluster, so everything grows together, but these are all isolated. So the logistics becomes an issue. The size is not there. Once you are working with the consumer and work backward, you are able to bring in the new technology. You are able to bring in those clusters. You are able to bring in the right kind of research in the genetics, improving the genetics so that the yield goes up. In Haryana, if you go to Haryana Agricultural University, they say that we are not doing research on any rice variety which gives a yield of less than 8 tons. So 8 tons has become the benchmark. So while the country may be half of that, but that is the yield that they are looking for. If you go to ICR will say we do not do any genetics work which is not climate resilient. It has to be either drought tolerant, or it has to be either flood tolerant, or it has to be tolerant to the weeds, tolerant to the various kinds of pests. So all those things are there. So while we are talking about all these things, it will definitely increase the income for the farmer. It will definitely take care of our environment. That means our ability to take profit over a large number of years will also be sustained. Right now, the farmer is only looking at his own profit. There is a need that we should look at the profit of not just the farmer for 1 year, but also the profit of the farmer for many years, and profit of not the one farmer, but the profit of the entire village cluster farmers. So then the decisions begin to change. Then they decide, okay, what is good for we have been growing rice wheat for so many years. Why not? Just for the sake of it, let's give a twist, do some pulses. Maybe my income will be slightly less this year, but its ability to increase the yield will be more. If we are able to bring in the different diversification, even the pests, they get puzzled. That what the hell? How do I now treat with get solvent, resistant to a new kind of variety? It's impossible for them. So by diversification itself, you actually cut down on the pest population. You cut down on the weeds population. That means you reduce the cost as well as the application of chemicals. So if you are doing, let's say, a particular crop, if you change the crop, just by changing the crop itself it puzzles the pests. So the pest population, the weed population goes down. But of course, the millets and the pulses are most resilient. But there are some methods. For example, if you have a nematode problem, and you have those marigold, the genda, cultivation in between the rows or around this, it solves that problem. So the science is already there. Some progressive farmers, they already know it. Only problem is that we have not been able to multiply it at a very fast pace. The reason for that is our approach to engaging the farmer has to change, because earlier we could bring them to the classrooms. Now we cannot bring them. Now they probably like, there are clusters, everybody is doing. Instead of coming to the classroom, maybe they'll come to a big jalsa. So maybe they would want to ensure that there are some videos or short videos through which they will learn. Or if those clusters are closer to the road, they can see those demonstrations very easily. And if they see, if those demonstrations are isolated, instead of that, if everything is together, it becomes easier to bring home the point, because there is also an imitation. Everybody is doing it. How can I be left behind? So there is also a little bit of psychology that plays. So the planning has to be at the village level as well as at the farm level, not only at the farm level.
Understood.
Right now, the planning is only at the farm level.
So thank you, Sanjay ji. That was an interesting perspective. You were getting fidgety with the mic. Did you have a question for
Yeah,
anybody?
I do.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask Mr. Sundaram that, while we are talking about on what needs to be done and how there are newer rice varieties as well, I just want to take a step back here, because when you talk about Viksit Bharat, what the PM put out as a mission or a statement was ensuring that there is growth when it comes to farmers and youth and women and poor as well. So we're talking really basics here, Mr. Sundaram, would you say? Because even as we're talking about Viksit Bharat here and 2047, we still are in a place and position, as Mr. Sethi pointed out, and as Dave also said, there's no clarity. There's a lot of generalism here. Too many departments working on a similar thing. We still are talking about credit and soil and insurance and crop and seed quality and yields, etc. So we haven't really moved too far ahead from where we were perhaps a decade back in matters of many of these. To get to that Viksit Bharat 2047, if you had to put out, let's say, 5 points, what would that be to ensure that at least rice as an industry, and I wouldn't want to make it too vague and put it to across agriculture, but if it was just rice, what are those 5 points that you think can take us to Viksit Bharat 2047 as a plan?
Thanks. I'm glad that you asked that question, and I'll take up from the two panelists that they have talked about. I think if I take a step back and say, if I were to look at Viksit Bharat and the whole rice ecosystem as that has to be developed, what are those levers or pillars on which the rice ecosystem needs to be developed? Because that will take care of policy, that will take care of my operational issues and the tactical issues, right? So the first pillar I'll put is sustainability, which I think in some sense many of them talked about. And sustainability for whom? For everyone. For the rice grower, which is a farmer in this case, right? For a small holding farmer, how do you help them get high variety, high yield rice? Sustainability for the ecosystem in terms of water uses. How do you get less, water using varieties? Sustainability when you have environmental things are changing. Your 40% at least area is rain-fed. I think 60% of the area is rain-fed today. And with that 60% rain-fed area, how do you get micro-irrigation and other things in place? Or get a rice variety which is able to deal with the variability in the rain side. So the whole sustainability across various stakeholders that I'm talking about. And all our policies need to be aligned to that sustainability side. The second,
so there's no policy as of now when it comes to sustainability, and not for rice.
I would say, as Mr. Garg was talking about, everyone is looking at it from their own perspective. So Ministry of Agriculture is doing its own bit in terms of looking at irrigation, in terms of looking at various other programs that they have, per drop more crop and things like that. MOFPI has its own way of looking at it on the food processing side. You have Commerce Ministry looking at it very differently, some export or from the export perspective. So everyone is looking at the elephant from their way of looking at it, from that prism. If we put a holistic prism and then say, okay, this is what sustainability means, and this is how each of the departments need to look at overall as the whole elephant, and then work towards that. That's pillar number one that I'll put, or lever number one, right? The second important area I'll probably add is healthy, which I think, Sethi ji talked about when he said low glycemic index and examples that. Healthy for whom? Healthy, again, for the consumers that we are talking about, right? So how do I make rice both as it is being consumed today healthy, and rice as a future consumption where I have to make it ready? Particularly if you are looking at exporting it across multiple other countries where rice is not a primary staple diet today, how do I make sure that they're able to cook it? I think previous session, some speaker was talking about that they don't even know how to cook rice, as elementary as that. So how do I get such healthy way of preparing it and not over engineer it and get into the trouble which many of the other areas have, right? That's the second pillar I'll put there. Which will also take care of what varieties to grow, what to pitch, how to pitch, the whole GI index, the way he talked about. Today we have around 30 to 33 GI index rice categories, and there are 72, another 32 or 34 who have applied. A total of 72 is what we have today, which are looking at either they have got the GI indexing or they'll get GI indexing. So how do I get those which I want to promote, looking at the healthy concept, looking at the world over changing consumer pattern? That's the second pillar that I'll say in terms of policy paradigm. The third I'll put is trustworthiness. Because today, as your co-moderator talked about, we have moved away from 1960s where we were a rice deficit nation to a rice surplus nation. Therefore, our gain in the international market cannot be, or even domestically cannot just be on volumes. It has to be some places volume, some places value. And the value can only come when you bring in that trust. Otherwise, that market is not available to you. So the trustworthiness is the third pillar I'll put, and which will come from traceability, which will come from ensuring a certain quality testing, what we saw in the session 5. So I don't want to repeat when people were talking about quality. And I'll put the fourth and last. I know I've been too long, but I'll just close that with this. Is the layer around technology, which actually underpins across. So whether it is the technology in the micro irrigation side, at the pre-production side, whether it is the technology in the supply chain side, whether it is the technology in the processing side, whether it is the technology on the traceability side of it, end-to-end farm to fork, the whole technology underpinning or underbid is what will help us then move towards the Viksit Bharat agenda that we are looking at.
All right. I'll just take the traceability part a bit ahead here. And Mr. Sethi, this one is to you. We've seen traceability come in various forms. Patchy, if I can say the most really. But when it comes to rice and the GI tagging, and there's plenty happening really. We have drone and a lot of schemes being pushed out and subsidies being pushed out as well. But traceability overall, what is your sense? And will that be a bigger pillar, a stronger one, which takes us to Viksit Bharat?
Yes. See, we as a country have to learn a lot from our experience in case of organic. So the entire world was getting a premium. As a country, we were not able to get the same premium. And now we have corrected it over the last couple of years. So what we did was we ensured that there was a proper traceability. And we also ensured there was a proper mass balance. So if we have procured 100 kilogram, we cannot sell 120. It has to be 100, right? So when we are able to see that there is an authentic variety, which I am getting, the market is actually moving. As we say, if there is a customer who is in London or in US and he is from Haryana, and if he knows that, oh, in my area, in my Karnal, water table is going down, and there is a rice, which is saying that we are working on DSR so that the water table in your town, in your Haryana, or it can solve the problem in Delhi. So he's a Delhiite. So maybe that the market will shift a little bit. It will start with a very tiny premium. Even if it is not a premium, there is a stickiness with the customer and the supplier a little bit. This is the first step. So we have to look at the small baby steps. If that happens, Sustainable Rice Platform has already done a good job by making a standard. But how much are we trading in that? 400,000 tons. Wow. Such a huge 400,000 tons. But in a millions and millions tons of trade, 400,000 tons is just like a drop in the ocean. But it's a good beginning. But if we have to move next, that means we need not make the elite standards. We should find out why it is that the common farmer is not able to adopt it. Why is it that the common miller is not able to adopt it? Why is it that the end consumer is not able to give the premium? The entire trade which is happening, most of it is because the premium is coming from the likes of Mars or Carrefour or the big retailers in Europe mainly, and they are giving the premium because they have already committed to their investors, to consumer also, but mainly investors, that they will move towards the sustainability. But when it comes to the consumer, even in those areas, the premium is not there. But if we work together, hold each other's hand, like what happened in case of NECC, Sunday ho ya Monday, Rose Khao Ande. So we created that brand. So similarly, in Haryana also, we created a campaign that don't do sowing before after 15th of November, do early sowing. So when we put together, so IRF can come forward and take this initiative of not just the brand India, but also the brand Sustainable India. So you would be able to find out that we will have Kala Namak, only Kala Namak sustainable. So there is no other non-sustainable with full of chemicals. Kala Namak always sustainable. Kala Jeera always sustainable. Ambe Mor always sustainable. Also Basmati. So you look at it from the problem that today, oh my God, the prices have gone down. So how we will survive, because we are the largest exporter. But also look at it from a different angle, that you are not allowing your competitors to come into the business because the message has gone forward कि rice में कोई पैसा नहीं है. That means your market is intact. Your market is intact. Get your house in order, reduce the cost, and use this period, the difficult period, to build the brand of sustainable, because Europe is anyway moving towards the sustainable purchasing. And if you get yourself ready and make sure that your rice is less chemicals, you have already killed the future competition.
Mr. Pai, you want to take one?
Sure. So just looking at some of the comments that have happened, over here, we have talked about differentiation, we have talked about the competitive dynamics, and we are looking at an international market today where there is some oversupply in certain categories of rice. But the view I think that the panelists have had over the past 2 days has been largely that this is in the most commoditized part of the rice market. So what I would call the base of the pyramid, rice that is basically for pure sustenance rather than excess in a lot of the specialty categories. But what I'd love to get from the views of the other panelists is that when we are looking at Viksit Bharat, we are also looking at the creation of what I would call Indian brands and Indian value add. Right now, at a global level, there are very, very few brands that are Indian that have made it. We have actually laid a fairly decent foundation in our production. We have become fully food self-sufficient. We have gotten a reputation now for being able to provide quality, and that's improving from a general perspective, but still as a bulk commodity. So how do we see the evolution of the rice market in terms of being able to create both a sense of GI, which is geographically indicated, people actually asking for rice from India and certain regions of India, like we have for our Darjeeling tea. Is that something we can see? The different varieties of rice that are sufficiently differentiated to get better margins in the global market. And then even packaged rice, whether it's basmati or non-basmati. I know that, basmati is about a third of the market for exports, but that's the only part where there's branded. Is there an opportunity for branded in outside of basmati as well? So I'd like each of the panelists to respond to this in terms of the broad, but beginning with Devji.
So, when we talk about GI rice, today in this exhibition, we have 17 GI varieties on display. To be very honest, many of these GI varieties were not even known to me. And if they are not known to me, I can assure you they are not known to 99% of the rice community. If it is not known to 99% of the rice community, you can imagine what the general public knows about it or not. So the most important thing for us to create a brand GI and to take the brand Bharat forward is to generate awareness. Food is something that you get used to. You don't imagine food. You don't go looking for it. You might read something about it and then might explore it. But you have to make people get used to it. You have to build exhibitions like this, and you have to spread the message. Today we have 17 GI pillars displayed in this hall. all those pillars say what are the different benefits of each of those GI varieties. We have a culinary experience center where we have recreated cuisines from 26 nations. These 26 nations, for example, in the case of Japanese sushi, the Nagari Dobraj of Chhattisgarh has been found to be a suitable replacement for Japanese rice in making a sushi. Now the Japanese are very, very picky about their food, and even a small change in the taste is not acceptable to them. But they have accepted that variety. So we have to display to the world that Indian rice is a cheaper and an effective replacement for their indigenous varieties. They can replace their own food with Indian rice at perhaps 1/5 of the cost. This is the path to creating a brand GI, and events like the BIRC are a pivotal moment in this journey.
So I think most of the views have already come out on GI. I can only say that it all starts with first ensuring that the production is done in the proper way, and it is done with the market in mind. So if your customer is a premium customer, it has to be properly packed. It has to be properly cleaned. It has to be properly taken to the right destination. It has to be properly harvested. If you will harvest the paddy at 18% of moisture, obviously you will have so much of losses in the broken. So you have to work with the farmers. Right now in the rice market, I think we are not working with the farmers because we have very efficient mandis, anaj mandis. So we are very easy to go there and procure the paddy from there. And the government doesn't stop you as long as you pay the mandi fee. You can go and directly buy from the farmer as well. So now the time has come that we need to work with the farmer, even if it is not a perishable commodity where you have to work. But in this case, you feel that you don't need to work, but you must work. When you work with the farmer actually gives you oodles of cash in the form of not just the proper moisture, proper cleaning, proper pre-harvest activity, harvesting at the right time, ensuring that in the last 22 days you have not put any chemicals. So when you don't put any chemicals in the last 22 days, the nature takes out all the chemicals out of your grain, and when it is at the destination, they think it is organic, even if it is not, because you have done the right things. So when you are able to do those steps, the farmer gives you a lot of extra money in the form of savings for you, for your supply chain, and that is only and only on the quality specifications. So the sustainability actually comes as a bonus, free of cost. You can push your other agendas, take care of the fact that you are not using so much of water. So when you have the GI, which is your strength, it has given you an advantage, but this advantage only lasts for a certain period of time. We know that so much of basmati within India also comes from some states where you cannot call it a basmati. So that means the geographically it is not so different, but the GI is for certain states, and if you grow the same varieties in the neighboring states, you can still get that. So your advantage of GI is only as long as that you are able to take advantage of that. If you don't take advantage, the clock is ticking, this advantage also will go away.
Thank you. Satyam, you had any views on that?
Sure. I'll take two examples to drive home what I'm trying to say. The first example I'll take is the latest one, which all of us are aware, Sri Anna, right? It is the latest branding that we can say, and I'm sure if I go around this room, and ask how many varieties of millets are there in that Sri Anna, everyone will have a different number. Someone will say 12, someone will say 16, someone might say 2 or 3, right? But the way it got branded as Sri Anna, and you see that even tier 2 cities within India, and even when we go outside, people are talking about it. So that's one example I want to take. Second example I want to draw your attention to is the Amul example, which all of us are familiar with. The way it got branded with individuals producing much smaller amount, much smaller than even rice, and then branding it together, right? So to my mind, if I were to sum them up together, cooperative federalism is the way to go if we are looking at branding. If we can look at today, we have 30 plus GI already granted, and there are another 30 plus in the pipeline, totaling to 72 as we understand as of today. So if that be the case, can I look at a potential where these come and brand themselves not only as cost effective as Devgasji said, maybe in some market it's the cost side of it that I'm trying to brand. In certain part of developed economy, I might like to brand the product as a very good healthy product, and that's where one of my pillars that I talked about, being healthy, having low glycemic index, having high protein, being very staple, and not having too many negative outcomes to your body is something that I would like to draw and talk about, being a lot more organic than many of the other products, having less pesticides and things like that. Giving that brand together like Amul, like Srian, is what is the way forward for us.
I have a question for Dave, really. This is a right opportune time to do a conference like this. I'm assuming Dave would not have thought about this last year when there were all those restrictions and problems and exports not happening. So this is the right time. So that is where I'm drawing my question from, Dave, because I read a report which says that by 2050, the rice demand would have increased by 30% from where we stand right now. I mean, I know there is good production, but every year is a different story, right? 2 to 3 years down the line, we don't know what the rice production would be here or in other countries as well. What I'm trying to say here is it going to be business as usual, which will take us to 2047? Or do we really need to think a lot different from where we are right now, given the fact that, yes, climate can be different, what we are producing, and then, of course, you will have rice also competing with other cereals. As he said, Sri Anna was one part of it. All of us have started to have millets as well. So there's plenty happening. 2047, if we have to get there, what is the plan really?
So you said, if I understand your question correctly, the first part of it is that will we see policy consistency when we talk about exports?
That one, yes.
So the first answer to that question is
no.
Though the situation is not different every year, but there is a different election every year. So we don't know which election what might turn. But when we talk about production, this year our production is 149 million metric tons. We have become the largest producer of rice in the world. We have a surplus of 40 million tons. Now, until and unless we really make a mockery of the situation of our agricultural sector and we introduce norms in Sri Lanka, like we make everything organic and we get rid of everything that we have created so far for so many years, this surplus is not going to come down. We are not going to generate enough demand to completely eat up this surplus. So in the foreseeable future, I don't see that we will land in a situation that where we will have less rice. We will always have more than enough to export, at least in the foreseeable future. And
what is your foreseeable future?
Now, as I said, Heather, that depends on the next election. So
let me interject over here with another question, which I will try to be as non-controversial as possible.
Why are we trying to make it easy for him?
Right, but basically, we had in this country what we call the Farm Acts. They covered various parts of the whole agricultural food chain. And a very important part of the Farm Acts that went through and then were reversed was what you call the APMC, APLM, the whole mandi system changing. So from a rice market perspective, because whether it happens this year, next year, or the next elections, in the end, by 2047, there has to be some kind of evolution in the way that things function. We have, got stuck for many, many years in a particular way. So what is the optimal way that our speakers see it evolving? In what is the ideal goal? Were those acts actually going to be improving things for the rice market? What was going to be the impact? And now that they have not entered, what does it mean for the rice market? And do you expect them to be revisited in the next 3, 4, 5 years?
I won't run away from your question.
My foreseeable future.
I won't run away from your question. So for the next 27 years, I don't see this 40 million tons coming down. So we don't have much time left, and for 22 odd years now. Yeah. So this 40 million tons is going to be there. So unless something catastrophic happens, we will have enough rice to export going forward. Now, a few issues are there because most of our rice production today is dependent on a subsidy regime that cost the government of India 4,50,000 crores of money every year. Now, there may be a realization. So, because when I talk about politics, I just don't talk about a threat of inflation. There is a threat of fiscal expenditure as well. So, there may be a regime that might come in and say that this 4,50,000 crores is too expensive, though seems unlikely, but that's a challenge. So, one of the most interesting ways that we can, a way that we have to reach Viksit Bharat is that we have to reduce the subsidy burden, and because our farmers will grow rice. Our farmers know how to grow rice, and you can't migrate crores of people from rice to other commodity, no matter how much you might try. The best thing that you can do is that you can ask the farmer to grow something which is more economically viable for him. Something he doesn't have to sell to the government, something he can sell to the exporter, something that can be exported. I feel for many states, especially rice producing states like Haryana, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Odisha, and Telangana, that is the way forward. They have to concentrate on GI varieties, on varieties which are more marketable, varieties which fetch a better price in the export market, and which reduce reliance on government MSPs. That is one way how we can achieve the Viksit Bharat dream. Another big way is that we have to improve our competitive edge. As an exporter, I face this issue in many countries. Companies who belong to China have various structural things that are in place. They have certain infrastructure at ports which are accessible to only exporters of a particular country. That gives them a competitive edge. Indian exporters, unfortunately, the government is not thinking in that direction. We are not here, the government or any stakeholder for that matter, is not developing any structural competitive edges for the sector as a whole. That is also a basic lag in our strategy. So going forward, we have to build our competitive edge. We need to have more science-based approach. You need the correct data going to the correct people to avoid a panic in a panic-like situation. You can't see a data set and just think that, okay, if paddy prices of one commodity are going up in one state, so that means there's going to be a political crisis in the entire country. So I feel that the information systems that are in place need an upgrade.
Dev, this one is to you again. And as Mr. Sundaram was saying, and as you were pointing out earlier as well, he's trying to sell rice. And as he said, and as you said, that there are those culinary experiences that we have outside where you can eat Japanese rice and you can eat Thai rice and you can eat mango rice and Korean rice. What is Indian rice really? Are we selling that at all?
No, we are.
How do Indians eat rice?
If we have to talk about how Indians eat rice, I don't think so we can do it in one session. We'll need a day to explain that, and maybe that will also be too less. So when we talk about Indians eating rice, India has, I think so, you can talk about any permutation and combination in which rice is eaten. The basic concept of having a culinary experience center is to take away a mental block. Because sometimes we don't use something because we have some prejudice or some bias in our mind. We have a fear that this thing might not be suitable for me. People have a fear that, okay, if I export this might not be able to sell well. So this is just taking away that roadblock, because food is something that you get used to. I'll say that again. Food की आदत डालनी पड़ती है, उसकी आदत अपने आप नहीं आती. So that is the basic concept of having this over here.
Mr. Pai, if I can take this question as well. I wanted to speak about the export part of it, because but what we are here about is excess rice and surplus rice this time around. And as Dev tells us, Mr. Sethi, is that we're looking at excess rice at least in the foreseeable future, and that gives us an opportunity to export as well. When we talk about Viksit Bharat, it also is about globalization in some sense. Are we looking at India as a country which will continue to export rice, hold its position from just not where it is, but increases it well? How will India reach from here to that? Is it about more countries? Is it about making it available to more countries in the sense that Dave just talked about?
So it cannot be more countries, because we have reached all the countries.
Exhausted
in the world.
it. Okay.
We have exhausted the list. So I worked for a company in the past. It was an African MNC, very well known. And it so happened that the owner of the company made a wrong bet on cashew prices. And you know them very well. So when he made a wrong bet, he's sitting on a stock of 25,000 tons. And everybody is ready to clap that now this person will be wiped out from the business. Because you know what happens in the case of commodities, your equity is 2% or 5%, and you have taken a bet of 10%, that means you will be finished. This person took a flight to US, Kaju बेच कर, he made a huge market for himself. And in India, we are exactly at the same place. We have a wonderful commodity called rice, which is the tastiest commodity. And we are not getting the right price for it. So this year is not to get the right price only, but also to get the new customer. So when you go to the new customer, you understand that what is their buying behavior. You understand that at what time they want to buy. You understand in what kind of lots they want to buy. They have huge number of problems, not only from us, but from other countries also. So you make a list of all that. You actually build a market. How many of you know that today in the lunch, you did not have moong dal halwa? Which halwa did you have? Can you tell me? It was not wheat halwa. It was jawar halwa. So can you imagine that jawar replaced your wheat and you did not even notice it? And it was as delicious, maybe more delicious than that. So that's how the rice is a very convenient to cook. Any modern woman in Delhi, you ask, she doesn't want to spend 4 hours in the kitchen and doing roti. Maybe she wants to say, cooker par rice chala do, or easy hai. It's easy. It is easy to cook commodity. So you have to work with your consumer to build the market. And when you work towards that, maybe you go in for a little bit of, processing. So little bit of processing means not necessarily that you again put sugar and make all those rice cakes and those things, which we don't want to consume at our age. We don't want to consume so much of sugar. So maybe a little bit of experiments there. And when we work on that part, we actually understand there's huge potential to increase your production from 4 tons to 8 tons. There's a huge potential to compete with other countries who are not maybe doing as good a job that you can do, because your youngsters are so well educated and the cost of travel is not so much. They can go and meet their customers and they can actually build that market. And within India also, there are so many new varieties to actually try out. We all eat only one rice in every house. When I went to Europe, when I went to Dubai, I lived there for a few years. A lot of people from South India come there. And we see in the supermarket what is that they are eating. So we got hooked on as a family to Surti column rice. And today, Surti column is probably consumed more in my home than Basmati. So that means we got hooked on to another rice. And today, many of you would have seen the kind of amazing experiments that ITC has been doing. You have seen so many varieties which are there for display. Maybe you have not eaten, but you have seen. And many of you will go and try. But this could actually be at a faster pace by using the advantage of social media, by using the advantage of some maybe 4,000 or 40,000 YouTubers that we have, and most of them are on the health and on the cookery and on the food part. And if we take the combined power of that, we can turn the tide very quickly. It can actually happen. In 1976, canola came. 1978, a whole of Canada was canola. So something like that, it can happen in our country also, because our country is also as educated as maybe Canada was at that time, and we can really make the wonders. And IRF, BIRC is the right platform to bring everybody here in one platform. So we can actually talk, we can actually see what is available, which are the traders which are available. And those who have not come this year, maybe they'll come next year, because they would have seen the kind of opportunity that they have missed here. So this is, I think, a good beginning, and India is at the leadership in whole of South Asia, and we should use the platforms like SRP to bring the whole thing together and go to the West कि आपको चावल इस रेट पर नहीं मिलेगा, इस साल तो ले लो, but next year we should all work together in that form so that we are able to sell at a higher price and we are able to not only increase the margins but also the production. Thank you.
We've spoken about on what needs to be done and how we will reach 2047 in sense of Viksit Bharat. But what we want to understand from our panelists now is the kind of challenges that we see here. It's been a couple of years or more since we talked about Viksit Bharat 2047. Has a lot being done? Maybe not. Are the conversations ongoing? Well, absolutely yes. But what are the challenges really is what we'll start talking about now. And you talked to us about 5 pillars, Mr. Sundaram, on how we can reach there. But what are the challenges until we reach there?
Challenges are across. It's both at a policy level and at an operational level. So if I start with, say, the first pillar, which I was talking about, sustainability, and if I start on the pre-production side itself, say irrigation. Now the whole challenge around how do I get to micro irrigation? How do I make farmers believe that you don't need to flood your field? And many farmers still today don't understand that. How do I ensure that I don't have to grow rice and I can have a direct seed rice, DSR category rice, and that is as good as in terms of yield going forward, right? So how do I ensure that GI tagged rice as a group we are able to do and brand? So, across any one of these pillars that you see, as I said in the pre-production, just irrigation itself, you have those challenges. Now, who takes care of it? Today, you have canals which are there and they have been there for years and ages. Somebody is talking about pressurized water coming in, and then precision agriculture coming in. We keep giving examples of multiple other countries, but where is the player in the market with the capacity to implement it? Do we have the capacity in the ecosystem? We say that we want to do it, but do I have the players who are ready? I am ready to give a subsidy of X% and say a private sector can come and develop. But do I have that private capital readily available? Or is the private capital only available for a running project to take over? And we get these examples in many other sectors as well, which is true in this case as well. So I'll say that, that's one. Second, as I was talking about on the traceability side, Indians are pretty much I talked about trustworthiness as the second pillar. And if I pick up, traceability as one dimension to that. We are very good at creating this traceability platform, saying that it is from this region, but we are also very good at finding ways of, bypassing it. So somebody else is, growing it in some place which is 200 kilometers from there, and I then tag it to this place through a back channel, and then I call it's traceable. Now that's a problem that we have. And you see that problem today also when they've talked about MSP. You see that problem. In a particular area, you get a lot more MSP rice than what is being produced there. So, of course, you will face that problem. So, the whole enforcement issue that we are talking about. We talk about seeds itself. Now, if you look at seed players that we have, they work, most of the players that you will see, they are these public players who are there in high volume, low value like rice and others. And you have then private players who are on the high value, low volume side. Now, on the high value, low volume side, can I have one of these types of rice, which are the variety of rice that I'm trying to look at, and get a private player to do that and create that supply chain and the quality of seed, which is good enough? And how do I ensure that to happen in the ecosystem is something that we need to work on, right? So those are the tenets, but I don't want to keep going on. I'll let the other panelists add to that. And then maybe if Ajit, you want me to come back on APLM, I'll be happy to do that.
So would you like to give those thoughts on APLM?
I can. The reason why I picked it up, because he had initially said all of us should talk about it. And I think this is an area where if I were to look around.
And I thought everyone changed the subject because they didn't want to talk about it.
I know. No. I think it changed by the time it reached here. So I'm happy to talk about it. This is the only, produce that you see, which is by farmers, which is produced, that you have a license to buy. Do you have a license to buy for any other product which is so massively produced? Not like guns and all, which are harmful. You don't see that. I don't go and buy license for sugar, right? I don't go and buy license for, when I have to go and buy a car today. Why do I have to have a license for buying rice or license for buying wheat? I'm creating a regulatory deadbait. It was important to have that when my farmers were not aware and they could have been cheated much better, in a much worse way, right? Today, with the information that they have on their fingertips, on their mobiles, I don't think you need that level of regulatory, strong arming. And by doing that, you are actually creating a dead weight. So it was a great initiative in terms of as an act. Probably what I'll say is that implementation should have been differently handled. Maybe we could have started with grains or produce where the ecosystem was least impacted. For example, oil seeds, maybe some of the dals and other areas where the ecosystem or horticulture products where APMC was hardly impacted. All the ecosystem players who were or who are still getting perverse incentives were least impacted. We could have shown the benefit and then we should have moved forward. You still have in India 5 or 6 states which do not have these acts, starting with the state which is going for election right now, right? Bihar. I don't think the farmers there have had any worse experience than, say, somebody which has, or Kerala. Don't have a APMC Act today, but they are still surviving.
So one other aspect of bringing down the cost of the product when you're exporting it or even for domestic markets, which I found that, in India, we generally tend to take the easy way out. We go for the simpler kind of solution, is that any product, especially an agricultural product, if you have a good market and use of its byproduct, that brings down the cost for the essential commodity. So, for example, in rubber, you have rubber board once the tree has finished its life, its productive life. Now in rice, we have had lots of initiatives, waste to energy, but they have not taken off in a very significant way. We've watched many other sort of, rice straw being used in various applications. The pollution that we began this session with is a function that nitrogen is not being returned to the soil because it's inconvenient for farmers because of either the timing or the economics of being able to put that remaining stubble back into the soil. So what can IREF do and what can India do to the moment you start using all of this, you actually bring down the price, the actual cost of the commodity if you do it in a very effective way. So what are the thoughts that the panelists have in these other products outside of that grain, whether it's the bran that is being cut off, whether it's the husk, whether it's the straw, whether it's the stuff, what can we do to reduce the cost of inputs because you don't need that much nitrogen if that's going back into the soil? What can we do to make this far, far more efficient and then finally bring down the cost of the rice itself when you do all of this?
The savings in rice, I'll restrict myself to a subject I know, that is processing and export of rice. I won't go into the agriculture side of it, though that side has a sea of opportunities available before it to reduce the cost. If we are able to improve our yields and various permutation and combinations, we can do crop farming, we can do fish culture along with rice farms. So that is a different topic in altogether. But today, if you go around the exhibition, there are so many value-added products that are made from rice that are available over here. One of the most interesting products that I saw today at the stall of Manipur is that they made some black rice bhujia. That was very interesting. So, when you produce rice, you have a lot of broken being generated. And that broken is more often than not sold for a very, very low price as compared to the final product. Now, that broken, if that can be effectively used for anything, though currently there are many uses for it. People used to make it, even kurkure is made out of, eventually from those rice brokens. We have many other applications. But one more interesting thing that came in front of me was that somebody was making rice protein. And maybe that guy is sitting over there. And so he showed that to me that, okay, I'm making rice protein out of this thing. So you mix it with milk and drink it. So, you have multiple opportunities available before you in the market. The most important thing that we have to do is that we have to keep our curiosity up. We have to be always searching for something new and something better. We should be a little bit bold and we have to have an experimental mind. We have to experiment. We have to find something which the market can accept. There are so many opportunities available in this market. Rice protein, bhujia, And you know what? And I'm going forward. You can he gave me kala namak cookies also. And so the world is there you can make as many products from rice as you can. Today we have cosmetics also being made from rice. So the basic approach that any exporter or any trader must have is that they should invest on R&D. They should search, because there are thousands of applications for rice, the byproducts of rice, and you have to click that financial formula, because for every person a different product might work from where he is situated, what are his own economics. So you have to experiment with 10, 15, 20 products that ignite your curiosity, and something will fix that magic financial button, and that will make it financially viable for you and bring down your cost. So I'm sure Sethi ji must have some more valuable, because he being in the FAO.
So I would like to say that if you want to work on the agriculture side, you have to work with the farmers. If you want to work with the farmers, you need to have money in your pocket, because farmers needs procurement. And for procurement, you need to have the money, hold the commodity with you for a long period of time. It's not possible at the rate of interest that the banks charge. A businessman cannot run it like this. It makes better sense to go buy from the mandi as much as which you want. And there are companies like ITC. Sometimes they hold the stock for you. So the miller doesn't even need to have the money. They will go to ITC. ITC will ideally, most likely, would have a warehouse outside the factory, near the factory, and ITC would put the money into the stock. Whenever you want the commodity, you just take that much commodity and pay to the ITC. So it's a working capital issue at the right interest rate. So you need an interest rate which is gentle, not for the farmers, but to go to the farmers and procure from the farmers. So that means this low cost interest rate loan has to be made available to the millers, not to do the business as usual, but to go to the farmers so that they can procure from the farmers. So when they work with them, ideally, in most of the cases, 90 to 122 days of extra working capital gets involved. And if you want to give them a low cost, interest rate, you have to go to the international market from where you can get that low cost interest rate. And there are some development finance institutions who want to work with organizations like NABARD to ensure that large money comes to India, or NABARD can then provide that trade finance at a lower cost to all these millers who want to work with the farmers. And when they go to the farmers, they get at a lower rate of interest as compared to their competitors. So everybody comes there. So the entire market shifts of not buying only from the mandi, but also going to the farmer and ensuring that you produce exactly the way your customer wants. And your customers are millions and millions of different types of customers. So you need to have those supply chains running right through your farmer. And when you do this kind of a very, very gilded supply chain, you have the support of development finance institution for low interest rate. You have the support from ICR and the agricultural universities and other technical institutions like FAO to ensure that you are able to do the right technology with that particular supply chain that you are talking about, with that particular type of soil type where your farmer is, with that type of farmer size and the risk-taking capability, so that there is an access to that farmer, all the technologies that farmer needs, not for himself, but for the supply chain that he is catering to. So when you work like this, you see that the entire ecosystem comes together and works together, and that is the opportunity as well as the responsibility of IRF. IRF is nothing but all of us put together. So it's we who make IRF, and we come together and we actually define the agenda of the IRF, that these are the things which need to be done on the logistics side, on the market side, on the development side, on the agronomy side, on the genetic side, on the finance side. All these things need to be looked at, and IRF could actually lead the entire thing.
And on that very broad and what I would say all-encompassing mode, I think we are almost running out of time right now. Manisha ji, did you have any final comments, or did you want to?
I just had one question to ask Dave, this one. as we talk about Viksit Bharat 2047, and rice industry seems to be doing quite well. I mean, look at all of you around here, very happy, celebrating, and all of that. If somebody new wanted to come into rice business, is enough money being made here? Guys, are you making enough money? Everybody in rice business, are you making money? All right.
Now, how I'll answer your question. Did you walk in today in this hall and all our industries related to rice? Did you see the quality of the stalls that are there? I think that answers your question.
This is a good time to be in rice business. Clearly, a lot of restrictions done away with. Viksit Bharat plan is almost ready. Everybody's given us pointers and pillars and levers on how to work towards it. So, as Mr. Pai said, yes, we almost are done on this conversation. Except if there is a point that you guys would want to make, you want to say something, you have a question to ask, a feedback to give, you have your own agenda for Viksit Bharat 1947. Yes, please. Sir, is Haldiram making a lot of rice products? Haldiram में बहुत सारे rice products हैं. आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे आप क्योंकि यहाँ पर हैं.
विजय गोयल
Yes,
from
please.
रायपुर. मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ सरकार के लोगों से, वो ओमेस के थ्रू जो है वो राइस बेच रहे हैं बाजार में, उसकी बजाय वो पैडी क्यों नहीं बेचते और हमारे टैक्स पेयर के पैसे की बचत क्यों नहीं करते? उसके पीछे क्या एजेंडा है उनका? कोई रिप्लाई दे सकता है तो मुझे.
सर, आप यहाँ पे कोई सरकार का नहीं है सर.
तो सरकार से हम क्यों मांग नहीं करते हैं? अगर हम सरकार के लोग नहीं हैं तो हम सरकार से ये मांग क्यों नहीं करते कि सरकार जो है ओएमएस में से राइस बेचने की बजाय पैडी बेचे, तो इस इंडस्ट्री को फायदा हो, एक्सपोर्ट्स को फायदा हो.
गुड पॉइंट, वील टेक दैट.
विजय जी, ये तो बात सरकार से पूछनी पड़ेगी. हमारे पास कई सरकार के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स है यहाँ पे, है ना. अगर हम बात करें तो वी कैन ट्राई टू गेट अबाउट सेट. बट एक मेरे माइंड में एक थॉट आता है, जो पैडी आती है वो बड़े हाई मॉइस्चर की पैडी आती है, और जो सरकार का एक सिस्टम होता है किसी भी चीज को सेल करने का, वो इतना सरल नहीं है, वो आप भी समझते हैं. अगर हम पैडी को ऑप्शन करने की तरफ जाएंगे तो हमें गीली पैडी ऑप्शन करनी पड़ेगी. नहीं, पर अगर आप आज मिलर गीली पैडी तो नहीं उठाता ना.
नहीं, गीली पैडी उठा रहा है. जो भी अवेलेबल है उसको कस्टम मिलिंग के लिए उठाना है और उसे 67% देना ही देना है. मिलर को तो जो कैलकुलेशन है वो सेम है. सरकार का 12,000 रुपए पर टन सेविंग हो सकती है ऐसा करते हैं तो. 19 रुपए में वो पैडी बेचें और एमएसपी है 23,690 रुपए की है एमएसपी. उनको ये लॉस बुक करना ही पड़ेगा. लॉस के अलावा उसके अलावा 12,000 रुपए टन का उनको फायदा बचत होगी टैक्स पेयर के पैसे की. इस पे सरकार से वो मिलर्स को उनको समझाना चाहिए, जहां बैठे हुए लोग, कि ऐसा हम क्यों कर रहे हैं. केवल वो बोलते हैं हमारे को ऑडिट ऑब्जेक्शन आ जाएगा, केवल एक ही वर्ड है उनके पास.
नहीं विजय जी, जितना मैंने सरकार के साथ डील करा है,
हाँ,
हमें कभी कभी कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स बड़ी इजी लगती है अपने पर्सपेक्टिव से,
हाँ,
बट वो रियलिटी में उतनी इजी होती नहीं.
अभी छत्तीसगढ़ सरकार ने,
क्योंकि कई सारे पर्सपेक्टिव्स ऐसे होते हैं जो शायद आपकी मेरी नजर में नहीं है, पर जब हम उस चीज को डिटेल में स्टडी करेंगे, आपका जो सुझाव है, क्योंकि ये सुझाव आपने पहले भी कई दफा ग्रुपों के अंदर शेयर करा है, जब हम विकसित भारत का रोड मैप और विजन डॉक्यूमेंट बनाएंगे तो इसको भी हम एनालाइज बड़ी डिटेल में करेंगे कि ऐसा क्यों है, और क्या अगर हम दूसरी तरफ जाए तो क्या हम उसको बेटर कर सकते हैं. कभी कभी ऐसी चीजें होती है जो हमारी नजर में नहीं होती, पर जो आपने एक क्वेश्चन कहा ना कि वो सिर्फ एक ऑडिट ऑब्जेक्शन की वजह से ये वाली बात कह रहे हैं. मैं देखिए, मैं उस इशू को इतनी डिटेल में मैंने स्टडी नहीं करा है, तो मैं उस पर कमेंट नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ. बट जितना मेरे को एक्सपीरियंस है कि कभी कभी चीजें इतनी सिंपल जितनी दिखती है उतनी इवेंचुअली नहीं होती.
छत्तीसगढ़ सरकार ने 1 मिलियन टन पैडी बेचा है इसी प्रोसेस में, और मेरे सजेशन से ही उन्होंने किया है. फिर उनके बाद में उनका 2 मिलियन टन का टारगेट था, मगर बाद में सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट से उनको और कोटा मिल गया तो उन्होंने 1 मिलियन टन विड्रॉ कर लिया.
नहीं, इस चीज को हम जरूर स्टडी करेंगे, बड़ी डिटेल में
I
आप
think,
और हम मिलके ही
yeah.
स्टडी करेंगे.
Right.
As
Thank you.
said, बहुत शुक्रिया उस क्वेश्चन के लिए. जैसे कहा कि एक बार ये हो चुका है, and maybe we can study deeper there. हाँ जी, behind you.
There was somebody here who wanted to speak.
Yeah.
हाँ, पहले I think so she wanted to speak.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kamakshi Agarwal, and thank you for the session. It was lovely hearing from you all. I have a very small question. Actually, it's my first time that I came in this exhibition and saw everybody, and it was actually wonderful seeing कि कितना work हो रहा है, and we as young people are so unaware about it. So just a mood for thought. Like, is there anything like a starting point? Like, where should we enter? How can we contribute in this industry? And where can we fill the gaps?
You want to enter the industry in what capacity?
I'm still figuring out, but I was very curious about the export segment of it.
मैंने आपको यही पूछा था अभी. The industry is doing well and new people want to come in. Is it a good time to come in? Yes, it is, because the money is being made. But you want to add to it, Mr. Sethi?
Actually, this question is very, very individual, personal for every person. So, like we have our own skills, we have our own strengths, we have our own talents. So these are all different things. And strengths come from which family you come from, how much is the risk capital that you have. Skills is that what you have learned in your college, and talent is something which has been shaped up over a period of time, maybe with the help of your mother, with the help of the entire surroundings that you have. So you have certain strengths, and on the basis of all that, your interest comes in. So the starting point is always your interest. Once you are identified your interest, then you actually find out that which part of the value chain your interest is more aligned with. Maybe some people want to work with rural areas, some people don't want to work with rural areas. So you kindly do a good soul searching for yourself, and then you talk to any of the experts, and they will be able to tell you how much opportunities are there in all the value chain, in all the commodities for the right people.
But just to add to your to his answer, I see the brokers always more happy than the buyer and the seller. So that's a small hint.
That is where you can get in. Yes, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for conducting this event, this BIRC event, because this is only for rice, right? Because I have visited to World Food India. There's another event, Food India, done by the PEDA. So this is a very good initiative by the website. So my name is Dilip Chauhan, and I'm a founder of Divya Mahar Private Limited. We deal in a particularly niche variety of rice called Kala Namak rice, which is grown into the eastern part of the UP. And as I can see that, there's a lots of experts are sitting there. We are also putting some efforts from beginning to the farmers, because my father is a farmer, and we are doing contract farming with the 800 plus farmers there. We worked a lot with the husk as well. Like we made nanocellulose. We are working with the ICAR to bring some nanocellulose up so that the husk can also be kept, used. There's a biochar as well, the concept. Further, with the broken rice, like sir has already mentioned, we are doing a cream of rice cakes, and with the help of ERI, we have tried ice cream as well with this rice, because this rice is one of the nutritious variety of rice in the India. So there are lots of possibilities, but the stage like this is very good for people like us, small entrepreneurs or startups. I would really like to put my efforts and thank you to the Garg sir and the whole team of BIRC. Thanks a lot.
From rice pellets to rice ice cream to rice protein to rice cakes.
Hello, good evening everyone. So thank you for a wonderful session. My name is Gulzar Hussain. I am from UN World Food Program. So just my comment and a query to the panel. So as we all know, India is kind of food surplus country. And in another side, like we see there is a kind of malnutrition problem, like rate of the stunting, wasting, and the anemia are there. So how does rice as a kind of multiple varieties can solve the problem of this malnutrition through our fortification initiatives? What are the roadmaps that we have and we are counting towards the Viksit Bharat? Thank you.
since a very long time, whether it is idli sambar or it is khichdi or dalia, we always mix rice with pulses, right? So that we get not just the protein and carbs, but we also get all kinds of amino acids, because cereals are strong on the methionine, and pulses are strong on the lysine. So you get all the 9 amino acids. So if it is the nutrition, it has to be balanced. As they say that you must have all this. And already the midday meal schemes, they have looked at it, and they are providing that hot meal every day to people. But for you to have a balanced product, it has to have all the vegetables and the fibers, everything. So it is not just that only rice is the part of the solution. Rice is not the only solution, it's a part of the solution. So it has to be balanced.
So I think one of the things that you have to look at when we look at nutrition, as has already been pointed out, it's no longer in India, based on our evolution and the fact that our productivity has gone up as much as it has since the 70s. It's no longer a matter of only calories. So the calorie intake is still an issue. So you do have stunting and wasting for up to about 40% of the population, but it is the habits, the other factors that are surrounding the actual delivery and actual consumption at the ground level, the mix beyond the calorific intake. But calorific intake is no longer the single problem. So it's those other factors, including the health-related, habit-related factors also, that are contributing to that issue. So we have to look at it in a way of how do we evolve that. So we are trying to do that through the entire Anganwadi system. A lot of that, what interventions are required there, but it's also a delivery system, not just a calorific intake issue anymore.
मेरा नाम डॉक्टर अजय शर्मा, मैं बासमती राइस से attached हूँ last 45 years से. I was the first batch officer of Government of India to start basmati exports. मेरा suggestions हैं, questions तो बड़े मुश्किल होते हैं बासमती पे जवाब देना. अगर मैं उधर होता तो ज्यादा अच्छा था. पहला सजेशन जो छत्तीसगढ़ के बारे में बताया, इस पे 2 साल पहले रिसर्च की गई थी. आई वाज पार्ट ऑफ इट छत्तीसगढ़ गवर्नमेंट के लिए. और सजेशन जो रिसर्च जो सारा घूमने के बाद, बिकॉज छत्तीसगढ़ मैंने शुरू किया था एक्सपोर्ट में धमतरी 1996. देन आई वेंट टू गोंदिया, देन आई वेंट टू बॉलनगीर, देन आई वेंट टू कालाहांडी with his grandfather, right? तो अब सजेशन ये था, जो भाई साहब का जवाब है रायपुर वालों का, कि सजेशन ये दिया था गवर्नमेंट को कि टोटल पैडी है ना गवर्नमेंट को प्रिक्योर करके मिलर को दे देनी चाहिए एट द टाइम ऑफ प्रिक्योरमेंट. बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट के जो सिस्टम्स हैं स्टोरेज के बहुत पुअर हैं और वो डेवलप नहीं हो पाए छत्तीसगढ़ के अंदर. अगर ये गवर्नमेंट इनको दे दे तो ये स्टोरेज बड़ी अच्छी तरीके से करेंगे और गवर्नमेंट सिर्फ चावल ही मैनेज कर सकती है स्टोरेज. फर्स्ट सजेशन. और ये बघेल गवर्नमेंट ने माना भी था. इनडायरेक्ट था क्योंकि बीजेपी की गवर्नमेंट थी और वहां कांग्रेस का राज था, तो मुझे थोड़ा एज ए बिजनेसमैन नीचे रहना पड़ा. दूसरा पॉइंट जो सजेशन है, जो 35 रुपया अपीडा लेती है, आज अपीडा का तो है ना गवर्नमेंट का, तो उसी पे पूछा जा रहा है कि जब ये शुरू हुआ था मैं उसमें था, तो ये हुआ था कि बासमती को डेवलप करने के लिए 35 रुपए चाहिए, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट के जो प्राइवेट सेक्टर था वो बहुत पीछे था, वो अपने इंडिविजुअल लेवल पर बासमती को प्रमोट नहीं कर पा रहा था. आज 35 रुपए लेते हैं और 60 लाख टन का है, तो कभी 21 करोड़ रुपए लेते हैं. उसके लिए एक कमेटी बनी थी, मैं था उसमें. पीएचडी चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स को सजेशन देना था, ऑल लीडिंग ब्रांड्स भी थे उसमें. उस समय मैं कोहिनूर में था एज ए ग्रुप जनरल मैनेजर. एज ए एक्सपर्ट मैं वहां पर होता था पेश, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने मुझे 1987 में एक्सपर्ट डिक्लेयर किया गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कॉमर्स में. तो इसका सजेशन ये था कि भाई अब 21 करोड़ रुपए जो आता है ना, उस कमेटी ने ये डिसाइड किया था कि अब जो नीड है आज की डेट में, जो गवर्नमेंट चाहती है कि एक्सपोर्ट को डाइवर्सिफाई किया जाए, कुछ कंट्रीज ने जो रिस्ट्रिक्शंस लगाई हैं, तो न्यू मार्केट्स को गवर्नमेंट प्रमोट करने की, सपोर्ट करने की कोशिश कर रही है। वो खाली बातें हैं, उसमें लग नहीं रहा वो पैसा। जैसे कि से फॉर एग्जांपल कुछ कंट्री ऐसे हैं जहां पर हमने कभी एफसीआई ने हमको सपोर्ट किया था, शांता कुमार कमेटी, उसमें इनके फादर थे, मैं भी था। तो उस समय ये सजेशन था कि हम जितना भी हमारे पास ये चावल सड़कों पर, मंडीज में या कहीं और रखा हुआ है, उसको प्रोसेस करके बेचें। तो उस समय हमने करीब 6 लाख टन, 6 लाख टन में मैं अपनी बात करता हूँ, बाकियों की दूसरी, उस समय ये सॉटेक्स इंट्रोड्यूस हुई और ब्रांडेड परमल जाता था। नाइजीरिया पूरा डेवलप हुआ था साउथ। आज वो स्टेज है कि इंडियन राइस वहां पर एस्टेब्लिश हो चुका है और बहुत अच्छे अच्छे क्वालिटी का परमल भी जाता है और सपोर्टिंग चावल भी जाते हैं, छोटी वैरायटीज के। उन कंट्रीज के अंदर अपीटा जो है वो करीब 43 कंट्रीज हैं। अपीटा वो 21 करोड़ का एक हिस्सा वहां पर सिर्फ ये प्रमोट करे कि बासमती राइस भी कोई चीज है और वो भी एक अच्छी आइटम है और उसको प्रमोट करें। तो यही नॉन बासमती वाले बासमती राइस के एक्सपोर्ट को जो 44 लाख से 60 पे ले गए हैं, तो उम्मीद है कि ये करीब 80 तक जा सकता है, यानी 2 मिलियन टन का भी स्कोप है। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दैट। आई थिंक हमारे पास इतना ही टाइम है कि हम शायद एक या दो और ले सकते हैं। इफ यू कैन प्लीज कीप इट शॉर्ट एंड वेरी क्रिस्प। ओके, यहाँ पर दे दीजिए माइक प्लीज, यहाँ पर दे दीजिए।
My name is Abhinav Sharma. I just have a small question. Is this a time to change this name, non-Basmati? Because is this term don't justify the various, biodiversify qualities and unique taste of all the other commodities. I have seen Sanjay sir's, interest in all those local varieties, but this term is not able to, acknowledge that varieties and the qualities of those commodities. So we should give more value to these varieties as well. Just saying a term non-basmati does not justify.
But you would appreciate. Sorry to interject you, but in this conference we have never used the word non-basmati. We have only used 2 words or 3 words: basmati rice, GI varieties, and exotic varieties of rice. So that is how I would call any other variety other than basmati. Either it is GI or either is it exotic variety.
But that point was very, very well brought in. Thank you so much. Thank you. Very well said. Can you please?
I have a question. As we mentioned, several GI varieties being showcased in the conference here in BIRC. The awareness about these GI varieties is non-existent in the market. And given the health status of our society, diabetes is on rise. So what can media do to increase the awareness about the indigenous varieties that can be grown and be a part of market?
Manisha ji, you finally have a question put forth to you.
You didn't have to jump in there just to prove a point. But yes, as you are learning, so am I learning as well. And I've been blaming these guys for not informing us enough. But yes, from here on, there's a lot of learning to do. And as he said, I'm not going to say non-basmati ever again now. It's basmati and GI and various varieties. And that's how we are going to promote it as well. As said, yes, we have a part in this too, in awareness and proper campaigns, etc., which we are going to take over now, onboard it as well. Thank you so much for that. I think, all right, one last question, because you've raised your hand twice now. Yes.
Opportunity for asking the question. It's not a question, rather I would like to explain that we are into improvement of the aroma of the paddy and particularly reduction of the residual pesticide content in the paddy, which is getting affected for the export market. So we are working on that, and we would like to work with more farmers as well as paddy rice exporter to help the country for the better quality of rice in the market. Thank you.
Which organization do you represent?
My company is a startup, and we are working on steel slag fertilizer, which is having a nutrient of calcium, silicon, magnesium, manganese, and iron. and we have been supported by EPIDA in this function. Thank you.
Last one? Okay. The last one.
Hello, everyone. And this is only for Manisha ji only. And we have been meeting at different venues, different commodities, exhibitions and everything. This was exclusively for the rice. So I would like to hear some remarks from you. Like, how did you like it and how it was presented? This was a maiden one. And all kudos goes to the team of IIREF to organize this BIRC. But since you are here and you have seen so many ones, and we will be meeting again very soon. So I want to hear it from you. What is your remarks on the scene, please?
I am, tempted to jump in and ask Devji, do you have any, hand in getting these questions asked?
I have the hand in everybody getting questions asked.
No. Let me tell
not
you.
this one.
Let me tell you, I am also the national vice president, and I've been interacting with this. You can say it's a personal question to Manisha ji.
On a stage though. But because this is the last question and this is the last session as well, just as concluding remarks, I have to say thank you so much for a co-moderator, by the way, and thank you for this panel as well and for inviting me here. You know, I could only make it today, and I have told Dave that next time when you're doing this, and he's absolutely doing it next year, I want to be there for both the days because this has been an amazing one. Just one commodity and a maiden one, and what great teamwork. I've been going around meeting everybody in their stalls, and everybody is so compassionate about what they are doing, and they have so much to show and share here. And the kind of footfall that we have seen, the kind of bonding that the industry has, the kind of almost family networking that seems to be happening here, and the kind of footfalls, it has been just amazing. And I said, I've already promised that I'm coming here next year. So thank you so much. This has been just amazing. And as Mr. Rajesh said, we've go to so many conferences in India and abroad as well, but this has been world apart. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you all the panelists for this such an insightful session we had today. Can we have a huge round of applause to all the speakers as well as our moderators for the session? Now I'd like to request all of you to come forward for a group photo so that we keep it as a memory to cherish forever. I request all of you to stay back because something very special is on its way, which you seriously do not want to miss. So I would request all of you to stay back for a while as well.